that America's best days can still be ahead, and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Reid Revolution.
About to have another Donald Trump cabinet meeting on this Thursday. You know, even the people who don't like Donald Trump, I really would challenge them to take the Trump hate out of the mix and recognize that, Trump's having cabinet meetings. He seems very actively engaged. He stands there for 30 minutes, an hour, and talks to the press, people he doesn't even like. He doesn't like talking to the press. Even the ones that are positive for him, he probably doesn't really like them very much, and he still kind of sees it as a part of the job. I'm sure some of it's ego, but he engages. If his demeanor was just a little different, they'd still beat the hell out of him. Don't get me wrong, but if his demeanor was a little different, then he wouldn't invite some of the criticism that he gets. But when you look at doing the job, the guy is doing everything you would think that an active president who's actually the leader. So I think we've gotten conditioned to the idea that this is a figurehead and the bureaucrats will take care of it. Yeah, you're not the expert. The guy who went to Harvard and has never done anything other than go to UN meetings in Beijing and Sri Lanka and the United Nations in New York and in Washington, that's the expert. And I think we're getting a lesson in what it's like to have someone who is not a young person. I'll be honest with you. If Donald Trump were if he were in his 40s, and you could become president as soon as you're 35 years old. That's the threshold. You have to be 35 and you have to be born in the United States. So if he was a younger man, some of the things he's doing, I might go, now, wait a minute. Are you thinking through the consequences of this? Are you aware of what a war looks like? Do you know financially? And I said that in the wrong order. Do you know what that, let me take that back. Do you know how many people die in a war? That's the number one thing. And then number two, do you know what this does financially? Yes, it enriches some people and some companies, but are you aware of the consequences of taking the actions you're taking? Donald Trump is very well aware of it. He's in his 70s. He's seen and felt the impact of the actions that he's taking when other people have taken. And I think here's the difference. And, we're going to see whether this works or not. I'm betting on Donald Trump. I voted for him and I'm betting on him. I'm praying it's all going to work out. But I think when you have someone like him who has demonstrated that he's not eager to get in a war, if he gets in it, he's going to kick your butt. He is going to come after you. And you don't want that. And I think the rest of the world is looking over there like, holy cow, this guy is, he is tough and he is not going to put up with our BS the way other weak leaders have. The United States is not scared of anyone. Well, you know what? We shouldn't be. For the moment, at least, we're the big dog. And we're normally on the porch. But if we come off the porch running at you, you need to be worried because it's not going to be a show. It's not going to be just a bunch of yip, yip, yip barking. We're going to rip a huge chunk of flesh out of your leg and maybe kill you. And I still believe, I know a lot of you do not, well, maybe this audience, you agree with me. I still think we're the good guys in the world. And if your reaction when I just said that is to go, no, we're not, you got a problem. And I really don't ever want you to be in elected office. Like I promise you, if Ghazala Hashmi was in the room and I said that, she would roll her eyes and say, that's not true. Disqualified, shouldn't ever be in elected office. I bet you Abigail would not agree with me. Don't you think? Jay Jones, probably. And most of the people who've joined the Democrat Party, if they don't hate America, they got big problems with America. That's why they're a part of the Democrat Party. You don't love the country if you join the party of the communists and BLM and Antifa and the party that's putting people in the streets, setting things on fire. that's getting what 3,000 different events this weekend to protest no kings when we don't have a king. I mean, listen, guys, if we had a king, most of you would be rounded up and probably be dead at this point. You don't have a king. You know, even the people who are breaking the law, it seems, don't get rounded up. So I don't know what world you're living in where you think we have some sort of king, or you have to be really careful that we don't have a king. It's clear to me we don't have a king because you can't even enforce the laws that are on the books in this country. So we're far from having a king. I'm not even sure we have basic law and order anymore. And the reason for that is because of the Democrat Party. That's why even with some of like the gay issues, some of the social issues where I'm like, oh, well, maybe they got a point. I can't join the Democrat Party. I'm not going to stand on the stage with the people who send Antifa out to beat up people they disagree with. I'm not going to stand with people who are flirting with communism after it's killed millions and millions of people around the world, who think that the money you earn is their money and you just get to keep a little of it and they will fix all the woes of society with their programs, even though they've never been successful at solving any problem. I mean, think of all the things they've spent money on. Public education. It's not working. It's not working. We're a dumber group of people than we were 50 years ago. I hate that. My dad and mom were a part of public education their entire professional careers. So I hate that the things that they've been associated with. Now, they were in a different time, and they sure as heck wouldn't put up with what we're putting up with today, but it's not worked. Homelessness. Look at the homeless problem. I mean, how much money have we spent on the homeless problem? We're not solving it. In fact, I would argue we're about to make it a lot worse with the whole marijuana thing in Virginia. We're going to have people passed out on the streets smoking whatever it is they're smoking, and we don't even know what that is. We're not going to even know what they're ingesting. I think the homeless problem is about to explode right in our face here in Virginia. So they never solve the problems. Those are just 2 or 3 things that I can think of right off the bat. I mean, we've spent trillions of dollars. Has the poverty rate moved? Last decade, last 20 years, last 30 years, last 60 years since LBJ started the Great Society? I mean, one of my big things is a great society doesn't feed and clothe its citizens. It creates citizens who can feed and clothe themselves. There's a big distinction there, and you need to understand it. So I can't be a part of a party that is a failure and that, quite frankly, right now is really nasty and mean. And I mean, mean is too soft a word for it. They're kind of vindictive. They're kind of vindictive. They're hostile. I mean, look at what the gerrymandering thing. I guess I should bring that up. You know, vote no between now and April 21st because you don't want to give 100% power to these people. They've already got the governor's office. They've got the House of Delegates. They've got the state Senate. Now they want almost all of the representatives in Congress, and they don't even want to do it fairly. It's not like they're willing. Last night I was in Gloucester, near one of my family homes, right outside of Matthews County in Virginia. You know, because I'm actually a native Virginian. You know, unlike everybody else who apparently that's not a factor anymore. God, I mean, I lived in Texas for years. I don't think I would run for office in Texas. It's not, you know, I like Texas. I really enjoyed it, and I want Texas to be successful, but I'm not a Texan. I've got my belt buckle with my Texas star on it, and I like to talk about the times I spent in Texas, but I'm not a Texan, so I don't anticipate that I would be running for office in Texas. That would seem kind of presumptuous. You know, even if I had great ideas, I'd love to help. If I move, but you know, if things get really, really horrible here, I hope this doesn't happen. And I were to move to Texas, I would want to be helpful in Texas, but I wouldn't see myself running for office in Texas because it's not my home state. So it's weird to me, all these people who arrive here from different places, some in the United States, some outside of the United States, and then they push they push laws that, I mean, ideas that have crashed their own home state or their own home country. And for some reason they think, I mean, what gall do you have to show up in a foreign place and try to push yourself on the people? And these are the ones who will lecture you nonstop about colonialism, for God's sake. It's like there's no connection between their own behavior and the things they denounce from previous generations. Oh yeah, the English arrived in Britain, arrived in Virginia, and they were the worst, and they colonialized, and they told the natives what to do. But I showed up from Bangladesh or India or wherever, and I'm going to tell you what to do. Give me a break. I mean, maybe if I'm not saying you shouldn't have a role in society if you showed up from someplace else, but maybe you should temper your criticism of other people who did it a couple of hundred years ago, because quite frankly, they've had better results than you have, and you're pushing failed ideas on us. And I want to be careful here because I would love to get along with Democrats. I mean, my entire life, as a gay Republican, do you know what my life has been like? It's been trying to navigate relationships in both parties with the groups of people who hate me. I mean, I don't like that. I wish it wasn't the case, but it's the truth. I've had to try to navigate that relationship. So, I would love to be able to get along with Democrats, but there's an arrogance there, especially now after last year, that has really kind of been breathtaking. Producer Dan, you all will remember this last week, but I don't think I can play it enough. Here's the lieutenant governor, the little Ayatollah, the woman who wouldn't debate during the campaign, didn't want to do interviews unless they were fluff interviews about how wonderful it would be if she was the first Muslim leader in the state. Yay, congratulations, you're going to make history. No one wants talked about no one wanted to talk to me about that. They want to talk about my sex life, but they're willing to just, kiss up to her nonstop. Here's Ghazala Hashmi being asked about a dead 41-year-old woman who's the mother of 3 walking through the Capitol, and the reporter, Nick Minnock from Channel 7, is trying to ask her a question, a legitimate question. He's a credentialed reporter. Look at that hallway. There's nobody in the hallway. She's on the way up to the Senate side of the Capitol, which is where you would normally ask a legislator or the governor or the lieutenant governor, the attorney, if they're in the Capitol. This is where you would ask them a question, unless there was a formal press conference. I mean, I've been in this building since I was 10 years old. I was a page in the building. I've worked for people in this building. I've staffed elected officials. I've never seen this attitude from somebody who's 1 month, 2 months into her job, and she's, I don't have to speak to the peasants. The little Ayatollah doesn't have to talk to the peasants, the reporters. She doesn't owe you an explanation for how her policies and her party's policies are wrecking Virginia and the United States. How dare you approach her? She'll have her security guys shove you out of the way, even though you've got a microphone and you're, it'd be one thing if Nick had run up on her and surprised people or wasn't credentialed. Like, who is this guy? We don't know who this guy is. You know who he is. You saw the video. Very appropriate. Well, it's not just the little Ayatollah, Ghazala Hashmi, who wound up as lieutenant governor, shockingly. She's not the only one with the bad attitude. This happened yesterday. Let's play for you what Nick Minnock encountered when he went to go talk to the soccer mom, Abigail Spanberger, the woman who was so moderate. Oh, and she's so nice. Oh, my God, she's so nice. Now she's governor. And, I know she doesn't care for Nick Minnock because he actually asked her tough questions. But look at this. Watch this interaction before I spoil it for you or plant something in your head. You tell me what you think.
Today, Governor Spanberger visited Culpeper to talk about housing. I asked her about Virginians police say were victimized by illegal immigrants.
What is your message to Stephanie Minter's family and children who have been harmed by illegal immigrants, Governor?
My question would be why, when there was a detention and deportation order, ICE did not deport them.
The governor is referring to Abdul Jallo, who is now in jail awaiting trial for stabbing Stephanie Minter to death in February. In 2018, after he was arrested in Fairfax County, he was turned over to ICE for deportation. But a judge ultimately ruled Jallo couldn't be deported back to his home country of Sierra Leone. And so, almost 2 years later, they were forced to release Jallo because there was nowhere else to send him. He's been arrested dozens of times since, but never again turned over to ICE and never kept in custody for long. Right now, there is a bill on Spanberger's desk that would ban local police and sheriffs like those here in Culpeper from working with ICE to deport illegal immigrant criminals. Spanberger has not answered our questions about whether she plans to sign it. Culpeper Sheriff Tim Chilton told me he's concerned about the bill because he has sworn to follow the law.
I think that kind of handcuffs law enforcement in a sense. We certainly have our duty to do, no matter if it's federal charges, no matter if it's state charges, we still have to honor them.
Right. So here you got the sheriff who's in a terrible situation. And I think the sheriff's tried to take care of things. The governor, that was a bad look for her. And I'm trying not to be a total jerk. I mean, I'm mad at about Ghazala Hashmi because all these people who think it's inappropriate for me to be critical of her, who the hell are? I didn't hear you telling her that it was inappropriate not to have a debate during the campaign when she said that I was an illegitimate candidate. Excuse me. I don't remember hearing you call her out for that and say, lady, we're still going to vote for you, but you need to stand up on your own 2 feet and defend your record and do what normal candidates do. I didn't hear any of that. Did I miss it? Did I miss it? Did any of you Democrats demand that your own candidates do what normal candidates do, which is defend their positions and answer questions? No, you didn't. You were happy to win by running against Donald Trump and smearing me personally. So you'll just have to forgive me. I'm not letting anybody off the hook. Normally in Virginia, someone loses an election, and I lost the election, it's true, and they walk away. And they let other people do this. Well, the problem for me is no one else has the guts to actually call this stuff out. So I can either sit over here in the corner and be like, God, I wish somebody would say something. This is crazy. I wish somebody else had been covering politics for 40 some years. I wish they'd say. They're not going to do it. So I'm sorry. If you wanted me to behave like a normal candidate and show that grace and decorum and walk away and be quiet, then you should have demanded that grace and decorum and tradition from your own candidate, because now I'm not going to do that. And I'm sorry if that upsets you, but you can't have it both ways. You can't trash me. You can't refuse to engage in the normal interactions that we expect from candidates and act like that's totally okay, but then criticize me on the back end for holding your people accountable. You just made the unfortunate choice, and you got unlucky that you got somebody who has a microphone and a strong opinion who connects with people, and I'm going to hold you accountable for that kind of behavior that you saw from Ghazala Hashmi. And quite frankly, I'm trying not to get to the place where it's just beat up on Abigail every day. I mean, I don't want to turn Abigail into the Donald Trump of Virginia, that, where everybody just beats up no matter what she does. I don't think that's healthy. That's not good for Virginia to have it be that kind of situation. But that was bad. That was bad for her. And God, if she's running for vice president or president, her political instincts are terrible, right? I mean, she should have stopped. Here you've got a legitimate reporter from, quite frankly, one of the biggest TV stations in the state of Virginia, right? She's talking to the guy who's going to speak to a huge percentage of your voter base in Northern Virginia. There is a pecking order. Northern Virginia is bigger than I was when I was in Richmond, and Richmond is bigger than Harrisonburg, which is bigger than Bristol. I mean, it just, it is what it is. Your market size is important when people calculate things. She's so either arrogant or not really that smart. She blows this guy off, and he asked her about the dead lady, the 41-year-old mother of 3. This is a woman who's, she's got 2 kids of her own? And she didn't hear that question and think, politically, I'm not even talking about morally, but just as a crass politics, wouldn't you turn to the reporter and say something like, first of all, I just want to once again extend my condolences to the family of Stephanie Mentor. I want you to know that what happened to her is horrible and wrong, and we're going to go after the people who commit these types of crimes. And we're not going to tolerate this in Virginia. And everybody needs to know that. But it is a complicated issue when it comes to immigration, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's what she could have done. But she didn't even have the class or the instinct or the morality. Boom, boom, boom. 3 different things: having class, having political survival instincts, or the moral compass to say, God, I'm talking about a lady who died who didn't do anything wrong. Maybe I should show some compassion. Her mother just was at the Capitol. I'm assuming that she saw that press conference with the poor mother of the lady. Wouldn't you have some compassion? And as a leader, as a mother, as a leader, as a politician, you would be smart enough to say something about the family before you went into the policy. And then she just completely acted like her policies don't have anything to do with this. What are you talking about, lady? You're the one who on day one said that local police are not supposed to cooperate with ICE, with immigration, with federal officials. And yet you used to be federal law enforcement. I mean, does anybody want to ask that question? Like, you ran on your experience as federal law enforcement. You know, you were a postal inspector. Wow, you know, the stamps aren't on the envelopes correctly. I don't know what a postal inspector does. I'm sure they do important work. I don't mean to denigrate anybody, but okay. You were a postal inspector. You were a CIA operative. It's weird to me that the Democrats suddenly love the CIA, but okay, you know, hypocrisy is abundant in modern America. But you were a federal official, federal officer, and you're undermining federal officers. What the hell? Does nobody see that as a contradiction? Come on, what are you talking about? And then when the consequences of this type of attitude reveal themselves on a pretty regular basis, where women are killed, women are raped, children are molested, you know, within 24, 48 hours, we had this story about the guy who was touching these little girls on the bus who was an illegal. Do you not think that they should be immediately turned over to ICE and get them the hell out of the state? I think they should. That's a difference between you and me. I'm a Republican. I'm a law and order guy. I say if you're not even here legally, I shouldn't have to deal with your criminality. Get the hell out. We're going to expedite your departure from the country. We're going to protect the citizens here. But no one holds her accountable. I mean, I give Nick Minot credit. They hate him, apparently, from what I'm told with these reporters that I still talk to down at the Capitol. The Abigail's press team is really down on him and don't even treat. I mean, you know, I used to have people when I worked for the senator and for other VIPs who were in the news regularly. I kind of respected reporters who, you know, weren't obnoxious and unfair, but they asked the obvious question. And that was one of my things with my clients is like, what's the obvious question here? You know, I know you don't want to answer it, but what's the obvious question that you need to be prepared to answer? We know they're going to ask it. Republicans have to worry about that. Democrats generally get a softball question and don't have to ask it unless it's just so obvious that, you know, it's like an elephant standing in the room and you have to say, what's this? I'm so disappointed that, and kind of surprised that someone who's been in who's been in the media and been in Congress and done, you know, national television doesn't have better instincts than to blow this guy off. And I want to be careful with this because, you know, I support law enforcement. And I don't know the security team that was with the governor. And, you know, you got to protect the governor, but the governor isn't the president of the United States. Everybody's aware of that, right? You know, for all the no kings people who are going to go march this weekend, no kings, no queens. And yeah, the governor of Virginia is called Your Excellency because of the connection to the king. Honestly, this is not the president. So if a reporter walks up to the governor of Virginia, it's not a security breach. It's not, you don't have to put your hands on the reporter or block the reporter. You can say, if you're the governor or if you're the staffer, I'm sorry, the governor's got to go. The schedule's packed. Please call the office. We'll set up an appointment. Thank you for being here. This is not the president. You don't get to shove the reporters out of the way. Now, I haven't slowed the video down to actually look and see if, the guy with Ghazala, the little Ayatollah, did put his hands on Nick Minock, which I thought crossed the line. Again, I want to be supportive of law enforcement, and I as much as I'm frustrated with Ghazala Hashmi, I don't want anything bad to happen to her. So you need to protect the lieutenant governor. There are crazy people out there who would try to hurt someone. I want to protect Republicans and Democrats. We shouldn't tolerate this kind of crazy, awful, bad behavior that largely comes from leftists in the Democrat Party, but I digress. But they touched Nick in the Capitol when it came to Ghazala Hashmi, and it appears to me they tried to shove him out of the way when he was talking to the governor. Now, I don't know what your expectations are. If you're from California, I was around Pete Wilson when he was the governor of California. I worked for President Reagan at the time, so I was with Pete Wilson a lot. I've been around Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was governor of California. I'm trying to think. I've gone to all these conventions. I've seen the governor. Usually governors of states are at these national conventions and they're walking around. They have a security guy, but they're walking around just like you and me, which is kind of what you want from an elected official. I don't think the elected official should be in this bubble. You have to do it with the president because the Iranians are trying to kill the president, whoever it is. So unfortunately, you have to build this bubble around the president and the first family and the vice president because there are assassins who are trying to kill this person. That is not the case in Virginia. And we can't allow it to become that kind of environment around elected officials. And someone like me, you can tell I'm spun up about these things, but I would never be mean or rude to directly to Ghazala Hashmi or to Jay Jones. I'm really surprised that Jay has behaved as he did. I tried to be friendly with him on the campaign trail. The fact that he took pot shots at me was, got to tell you, I was disappointed and surprised by that. And it also means, hey, any deference I would have shown to you is over. Not gonna, I tried to be polite and friendly. I was going to treat, you're a Virginian too. Jay is actually a native Virginian, so I was going to try to honor that, and he doesn't seem to care. So, okay, if that's your attitude, man, fine. I'm happy to come after you if that's what you want. But I wouldn't throw anything at them. I wouldn't cuss at them. I wouldn't do something to threaten them. So it's just a weird situation that we keep tolerating the bad behavior, but then someone like Nick Minock, who has every reason and every right and responsibility as a reporter to ask legitimate questions of our elected officials, gets pushed away like he's a peasant. I'll sum it up. It's this, I'm the king or the queen, and you're the peasant, and you must not be in my sight, and I don't have to talk to you. When you see elected officials behaving that way, they shouldn't be elected officials anymore. That's why even when the stuff was happening to me last year, we're almost at the 1 year point, by the way, of when the horrible stuff started being said about me, the lies. What did I do? I went and talked to everybody. Didn't stop one day because I think that's how a man and an elected official, or would be a candidate who wants to be an elected official, has to respond. You can't retreat. You can't flip everybody off and stop engaging. You better be prepared to confront things head on. That's a different mindset than the one that's on display from the people you just put in the Capitol. Nick Minock had every right and reason to ask those questions of both the little Ayatollah and Governor Spanberger. And in both cases, these arrogant ladies blew him off. And they didn't just blow him off, they blew you off. They said through him, I don't have to answer your questions. even when some 41-year-old innocent woman is dead, I don't have to answer to you. Now, that should be a problem, and you should be mad about it. We're going to take a break. I'll come back. Vicki Manning, who we've spoken to before from Restoration News, one of the other reporters out there who's actually digging and doing the investigations behind some of the bad things that are happening in the state. And she's pretty brave to do it. Vicki Manning joins us. And then a little later, Delegate Ren Williams, who I don't know if you're following him on social media. He's pretty hyper aggressive and seems to cut through all the garbage and I think give good synopses of what is happening at the Capitol, or what has been happening. We'll talk to Delegate Ren Williams as we continue on this Thursday morning edition of the Reid Revolution.
Here in Richmond, our freedoms are under attack. The Democrats are ramming through a redistricting referendum, redrawing the congressional maps that shift a fair 6-5 representation to 10-1 in their favor. Rushed ahead of this November's election, it's a clear power grab. Your vote no is important. Virginia, we can't afford to sit this one out. So by April 21st, get out and vote no for fair representation. Vote no to defend freedom.
Yep, can't remind you enough between now and April 21st to vote no. Now, I should mention tomorrow in Henrico County, which is where I live, for those of you who are out of the state, you'll just have to indulge me for one more month until we get this referendum over with. Because really, the future of the state of Virginia is on the line. And quite frankly, the future of the House of Representatives is on the line. And that's why the Democrats care so much about this. It's a total naked power grab to try to take a 6-5 Democrat majority. It's not like the Republicans have the majority here. 6 Democrats in the House of Representatives from Virginia, 5 Republicans currently. No guarantee it's going to stay that way, even with the current maps. You know, I mean, the way things have been going, I don't know, this November, if you kept the maps as they are, there is no guarantee that Republicans would be reelected. Now, I'm voting Republican. I think Jen Kiggins and Rob Whitman and John McGuire and Ben Klein and Morgan Griffith. I mean, I think these guys are doing a very good job. I'm pleased with them, but there's no guarantee they would be reelected anyway. But the Democrats can't tolerate that. They're going to make up the excuse about things that are happening in other states immediately, not even talk about the last 20 years of Democrat gerrymandering. But right now, they're going to use Texas and California and other states as an excuse to disenfranchise rural voters in Virginia. So vote now and vote no if you actually want to protect fairness. The answer is no. Keep the maps as they are and let the voters decide who they send. The voters in the region, not the voters of Northern Virginia. No offense to Northern Virginia, but you know, you already got a lot of people and you got a lot of money and a lot of power. You're right next to D.C. Now you want to tell everybody in Gloucester County, where I was last night, that you're going to decide everything for them? What do you have in common with people in Gloucester? Nothing. Nothing. Naked power grab, and we should be voting no. Vicki Manning is with Restoration News. And Vicki, whenever I see one of your posts come up on social media, I am pleased that you're out there doing this and no one's run you off yet. And usually I'm like, wow, you know, you kind of took an angle on this that none of the other reporters in Virginia have taken. So I appreciate you joining us. Tell us what you're working on and your latest stories. And I don't hear your microphone. It sounds like maybe it's muted. Is it muted? Sometimes that happens with this system. But Producer Dan, are you hearing Vicki, or is that me, or is that Vicki's mic? Or sometimes it's, you know, just like a Zoom meeting at the office, you wind up having it muted. What do you think? No, you know what?
Yeah, I think that's on Vicki's end. Just to let her know if she can hear me.
I think she can hear.
But yeah, so. Well,
Vicki, you know, we had this happen with a guest last week, and what we did was the person dropped off and then came back, and that solved the problem. And you know me, I can fill the time. As somebody who used to do a 4-hour talk show every single day, I can certainly fill the time. And there is a lot to talk about. You know, one of the things I want to talk about with Vicki when she comes back is a bunch of bills that no one seems to be paying attention to. And it's weird because Republicans especially have been so hung up on election integrity appropriately hung up on election integrity, I might add. And there were a lot of things being snuck through the General Assembly while everybody's worried about gun laws, which you should be worried about. There are a lot of changes being snuck through the Virginia General Assembly. And one of them, it makes no sense. God, even if you're a Democrat, it makes no sense. Vicky's back. I think I can hear the mic now. You there?
Does it work?
Yeah, it works. Awesome.
Yay. Okay.
So listen, I started talking about one of the things I want to chat with you about, and I saw this post about the election laws. And I was on a radio program up in Northern Virginia, big radio show, huge audience up in Northern Virginia yesterday to talk about gerrymandering. And the guy said, oh, well, what about these voting laws? I said, well, the one that I don't get is the National Popular Vote Compact that these Democrats are so excited about locking Virginia in with the popular vote. And for some reason, I mean, it's an irrational overreaction. And I believe in the Electoral College. I'm so thankful that Virginia isn't stuck with the cheating in Illinois and the cheating probably, I think, in Georgia and other places. You know, we got to run our own show, and hopefully we'll get people who are committed, Republican and Democrat, to not cheating. But these people are, forgive me for putting it, they're so stupid. They want to tie us into the National Popular Vote Compact. And I've said, so you would want your 13 electoral votes to go to Donald Trump and not to Kamala Harris? What? Yeah. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's like, you're aware Kamala Harris won Virginia, and she got the 13 electoral votes from Virginia, but she didn't win the popular vote. So your plan right now, and I know these people hate Donald Trump, you'd give the 13 votes from Virginia to Donald Trump? Oh, my God, no. I mean, I don't know. I didn't think that's not right. I said, look it up, man. Of course it's right. How dumb are you that even in this situation, which has sent you into orbit, you don't recognize what you're actually doing? It would work against your own best interest in this particular situation. What do you think the governor's going to do with this bill?
Well, I just don't know, John. I've stopped trying to figure out how the Democrats think because, like you said, I think this is all about them trying to angle as best they can to maintain power at all levels. We've seen that with the gerrymandering, and Louise Lucas admitting that this is all about Trump, Spanberger admitting this is all about Trump. And, that particular bill is going to backfire on them. I don't know whether or not Spanberger realizes that, and if she has the guts to veto any of the Democrats' legislation, we'll see. But they have adopted quite a few bills, pieces of legislation that are just purely unconstitutional. And so will she abide by her oath to abide by the Constitution, both the U.S. Constitution and the Virginia? I don't know. I believe
I get the impression that they're very eager to just put things in the courts. And I think it's bad, but I also think if you just take the Constitution out of the mix and you're a crass politician, you figure if it takes 2 years or more to get something through the courts, you can do a lot of conditioning and rig the bureaucracy in coordination with these new laws. And by the time the courts get around to it, you've already done the damage to the society. I think that's the mindset that they've got, which is bad.
Well, the taxpayers are going to be footing the bill for all of those legal fees.
Oh, right.
That's just infuriating. Some of the legislation that I highlighted in my latest article related to elections, it's actually a topic that SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, is hearing right now on some of these absentee issues, these absentee ballot issues. And the Virginia Democrats have just adopted a number of pieces of legislation that further extend the acceptance of absentee ballots. Right now, they've got a bill that has been passed. It would become effective in 2027 that would extend the deadline for receipt of an absentee ballot to 5 p.m. on the third day after the election.
Wow.
And Justice Alito, in his arguments recently, when he was asking questions on this topic, he said, what does election day mean? It doesn't mean 3 days after the election. It means that the ballots must be in by election day. And the Democrats have adopted quite a few of these. One that's very concerning to me is that it completely prohibits the hand counting of machine readable ballots for any reason. So if there's a defective ballot, it can't be read by the machine. The registrars are being told that they have to reproduce the ballot by making a duplicate. So these registrars are going to essentially create your ballot for you. I don't know how that's constitutional either. So
well, let's pause on those two issues, starting with the last one. I don't know what the deal is with these machines. There are a bunch of different people I've talked to, including Republicans, who assure me there's no problem with the machines. It's like a calculator. It's just there's not a problem. I would love to believe that. I would love to have that confidence. The problem is I see too many instances where my political opponents are making decisions that indicate to me that they want to enable cheating. Whether it's fighting to keep the names of illegal immigrants on the voter rolls, like they did with Glenn Youngkin. I mean, Glenn Youngkin, he didn't determine that these people were illegal. They said, I found my name on the voter roll and I'm not eligible to vote. Glenn Youngkin, the governor at the time, did, I think, what a responsible person would do, which is to say, well, let's remove those names so that they're not on the list of potential voters. Now, why are you against that? What is, in that circumstance, and we were only talking about that limited group of people, why would the Democrats fight to the Supreme Court to keep those names on the voter rolls? I've never heard an explanation that I understood or that was reasonable for that action. And when you behave that way routinely, it starts to make me think, now, wait a minute, I would like to trust you, but no, I don't trust you. It's, if your partner is constantly looking at their phone and you say, hey, what you looking at on the phone? Oh, nothing. Okay, maybe if it's a month before your birthday, they're buying something wonderful for you on the phone and they don't want to spoil the surprise. But if every month of the year they don't want you to see what's on their phone, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, excuse me, give me your freaking phone. I'm going to check and make sure that something weird isn't going on or inappropriate is going on behind the scenes. And that's an uncomfortable situation to be in, but I'll be damned if I would let the state go to hell because I'm trying to be polite when other people are trying to cheat me. And I think that this attitude about the voting machines and not hand counting, like there seems to be a discrepancy here. Let's put them in two stacks. This is the John Reid stack and this is the Gonzalez stack. Let's hand count them and make sure that the machine didn't mess it up or hasn't been rigged. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
Absolutely. And you talk about this narrative with the illegal aliens voting. And it used to be the narrative from the Democrats was that illegal aliens are not voting, period.
Right.
Well, we heard Chuck Schumer just, I think this week, speaking about how there aren't very many illegal aliens voting.
Right.
So now we've gone from there aren't any to there aren't that many. I think,
and we know that they were on the list. I mean,
exactly
1,600, right? If I remember correctly, that Glenn
Yeah.
Youngkin discovered, and they still wouldn't admit that they're on the list. Don't tell me nobody's doing it.
And states like Virginia are refusing to turn their voter rolls over to the Department of Justice so they can investigate. Why are they so afraid? This should be transparency. This should be about transparency. And all of these bills, these election bills that the Democrats are passing, takes away that transparency and security of our elections.
The other one you mentioned, just to touch on it briefly, about the extending the deadline for ballots to arrive to 3 days after the election. I know people who don't really pay attention would say, oh, if it's in the mail, why not allow it? The problem is, once you get the totals on election night, you now know whether you can make up the deficit. If you wanted to rig it, let's say you were one of the deceptive people who had gone around to one of these apartment complexes with people who aren't paying attention to the election, and you managed to sign them up for the automatic ballot that gets mailed to your mailbox. And then, I'm not making this up, because I've seen the photographs of it here in Central Virginia. At election time, there have been a number of mailboxes that have been left wide open, like 50 mailboxes wide open. Normally, you wouldn't think anything of it unless you were in a high-crime neighborhood, which Henrico is becoming because we've got Democrat leaders here who won't lock up the bad guys, but I digress. But if they have taken those ballots and now on election night you find out that you're 2,000 ballots down, it is not inconceivable that you could create 2,000 ballots and get them in the mail. And I'm hesitant to impugn postal workers. I don't like to do that, but I just don't think that we should be, with all this money and all this power on the line, I don't think we should have to trust people are going to be fair and nice, especially when they're in a labor union, which doesn't have, it doesn't have a reputation for being upstanding. Hate to say it, they just don't. They're looking out for their best interest, and in a lot of cases, I think they'll do whatever they have to do to win. So you put 3 days later, you could manufacture 2,000 ballots easy and win an election based on the votes that come in the back, on the back end. That's crazy to tolerate that.
And the longer you leave the voting open, the more room there is for cheating. And Justice Alito also brought up the point, well, what's too much? Is 3 days too long? Why not just open it up to voting, for another month, or let's open it up for 6 months? What is the end result here? Election day.
Yeah, why 3 days? Is it
right.
Because the Postal Service is so lousy that no mail gets there? It's going to be 10 days before it arrives? Is that the calculation? This is insanity that we're indulging this. Listen, if you want to vote, look, I got my ballot right here. It's filled out. Vote no for an election that I'm going around the state telling people they need to vote no. And I've been so busy traveling around the state, I haven't even dropped my ballot off in Henrico County, which is what I'm telling people to do. It's on me, if I want this ballot to count, to get it to the government center. Either I put it in the mail and pray it gets there and doesn't get messed with, or I drive my butt over and put it in the box myself. And if you can't take that responsibility, then how am I supposed to, are you supposed to vote on your phone next? Is that where we're headed? I think that's probably where we're headed.
Don't give them any ideas, John.
Yeah. All right, what else you got on that list? Hey, Producer Dan, you want to throw the list up and let's look real quick?
Well, I'd like to point out some education-related bills, if I could.
All right, sure.
Some of this legislation that they've adopted has created more work for teachers and school staff, which, our teachers don't need at all. And it returns DEI back to the classroom.
How does it do that?
So, for example, there's a requirement for the return. This is the actual legislation. It requires the return of all DEI initiatives in the Virginia Department of Education that were taken away under Youngkin, including what's called Ed Equity Virginia. There was a website that the Virginia Department of Education had adopted under Ralph Northam that was called Ed Equity, and it was the most far left activist type of material you've ever seen. I remember in 2021, this Ed Equity website, they did a commemoration of 9/11, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And I watched this video, and it was absolutely horrific. They were basically saying that Muslim students were going to be targeted by non-Muslim students on 9/11, and that was their focus of this commemoration of 9/11. Not the people who had died, not condemning the terrorism. In fact, in the video, they told people not to use the term terrorist regarding the Muslims that created this attack, that committed this attack. So that's one of the initiatives that's being brought back through the Department of Education, and teachers were encouraged to use these resources. All across the state, these resources were being used in classrooms.
I bet they don't clean up the description of January 6th and avoid using Trump or Republican, right?
That's another piece of legislation. It dictates what instruction teachers can provide regarding the events of January 6th at the Capitol. Specifically, teachers cannot instruct that there were peaceful protesters there, or that there was any credible evidence that there was election fraud in the 2020 presidential election. So there are some ways around this for school boards, because the way the legislation is written, it says if teachers teach on this topic of January 6th. So what I'm
So now they can just skip it, maybe.
Right. So what I'm encouraging school boards to do is to adopt policies specifically stating that teachers cannot teach on this topic. You know, if they're going to change history, then you know, they shouldn't be teaching fake history. If
I mean, these are the jerks that constantly talk about telling the whole story, right? You know, oh, we can't just talk about the Civil War from a Southern perspective in a Southern state in the capital of what was the Confederacy. Not allowed to discuss the totality of what caused the Civil War. That's a whitewashing, supposedly. But in the case of modern circumstances, which we all, many of us witnessed personally, you're not allowed to. They're going to dictate exactly what's going to be said. I mean, come on, this is crazy, and I'm kind of surprised. I shouldn't be, but I'm surprised that the General Assembly would micromanage like this.
Exactly. When they're always talking about, the Virginia School Boards Association is always talking about we need to have local control, yet the Democrats are trying to control what is happening directly in the classrooms and taking that control away from local school board members.
Yeah.
Another big topic in the education world is the fact that they adopted collective bargaining, and that is going to
For public sector employees.
Public sector employees like teachers, police officers, fire, rescue. So that is
Vicki, people are going to hear that. They're going to say, well, you know, these people work hard. They deserve to be well compensated and have somebody advocate for them. All that's nice until you actually look at what happens. And I'm not making it up. In the counties that have done this, they're bankrupt.
Well, take a look at Richmond. Richmond adopted collective bargaining for their schools. And it cost them so much money that they could no longer afford to have summer school for their children. So, you know, this comes at the cost to the students. Yeah. And, you know, even Northern Virginia school districts who've adopted this already are regretting it.
Right.
And
the people who were left-wing folks who think this is a nice idea get their real estate tax, their real estate assessment and the tax associated with it, and go, holy cow, what happened? Well, you're stupid. You voted for a bunch of obligations that you have no way out now, and guess who's going to pay for it? You are. So what are you going to keep on migrating all the way down to Florida and ruin Florida next? You know, you came from Pennsylvania, and now you're ruining Virginia because you already did it in New Jersey and Connecticut and Pennsylvania. You're just going to keep on migrating and destroying everything on your way down to Florida and hope you're dead before you get, you know, to the Caribbean? I mean, come on. This is insanity, especially once it's demonstrated that it's financially reckless and abusive to the people.
Well, and it's interesting because down here in Hampton Roads, there was a bipartisan letter sent to the legislature opposing collective bargaining. Democrat mayors from this whole region joined together with Republican mayors to say that collective bargaining was going to be dangerous for our localities, yet the Democrats passed it anyway. So I can't imagine that Spanberger's going to veto that bill, so that will be coming to us. I believe that legislation effective date is 2027, so we will have some time to prepare for it. But
they'll have time to jack your taxes up to get ready for it, and everybody should brace for that. And if you move to Virginia, if you're not a native Virginian, you move to Virginia because things were getting too expensive in the Northeast or wherever you came from. I met a lady last night who moved here from California. Another woman who came here from Maine. Oh, a lady from Minneapolis who said she just couldn't take it in Minneapolis, so she moved here last year from Minneapolis. Get ready, because the bad policy positions, both socially and financially, are going to be repeated here because you've got a bunch of transplants who were social justice warrior leftists who have been empowered in Virginia. It's a huge mistake. Vicki Manning with Restoration News is doing a great job of covering stories no one else wants to touch. And I look for your stuff every day, Vicki. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate it. And I've got a big story coming out tomorrow on another bill that the legislature has adopted. It is the legislature adopted a right to obtain contraception law that includes sterilization, and it does not have any age parameters or parental rights requirements in the bill. So I detail that. That should be posted on our website, restoration-news.com tomorrow.
Okay, I'll be looking for it. And
okay.
I know what some of my female friends are going to say about that. Listen, every policy position, you got to think of the consequences of this, not just what you intend, what you want, that you think is fair, but there are people who will abuse this and harm women, and there's some consequences that you probably haven't thought of. I'll be looking for that tomorrow, Vicki. Thank you.
Okay, great, John. Great to be with you.
Vicki Manning, Restoration News. I hope you'll follow her on Facebook and Twitter, and keep up with the stories she's covering. And it also goes to show, not to be critical of my friends in the media, some of whom I like personally, but there's a groupthink in the modern media. They're not thinking like Vicki of what are the unintended consequences of a contraception bill that enables a 12-year-old to go get contraception. What are the consequences of that? I'm sure the stories will be written about how great this is. It's a milestone for women's rights. Okay, that's one angle on it, but have you even bothered to think about the other consequences of this culturally, socially? There's a groupthink that is not healthy for us. And Vicki, over the last year, I've seen her. She's one of the people that will actually go out and cover the other side of it. And I still think she does it in a fair way when she brings up these topics. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Delegate Ren Williams joins us. I hope you're following him on Facebook as well. Boy, rough session for Republicans. We'll get his assessment of how things ended and how Democrats didn't even get their work done. So now everybody's got to come back to the Capitol. Again, isn't it interesting? They're coming back to the Capitol the day after the referendum. Wonder why. You think it's because they don't want to deal with some of these issues before the referendum because they know they're going to tick some people off? So they're holding it off so that you can't talk about it before the election? I think that's what's going on. We'll ask Ren Williams what he thinks when we return on the Reid Revolution.
April 21st, a special election will be held for Virginia voters to decide who draws our political district lines. Will it be the current nonpartisan Citizen Commission, or will it be Richmond politicians with their own dark and secret political agendas, shifting lines every cycle, confusing the voters? They call this the Fair Redistricting Amendment, but it's anything but fair. Vote no on the unfair amendment on April 21st.
Authorized and paid for by the 5th Congressional District of the Virginia Republican Committee.
Yes, please vote no and vote now. Don't wait. I got to tell you, we got a limited amount of money to try to influence people effectively in this issue on this issue before April 21st. The Democrats get millions of, supposedly more than $20 million coming from Democrats in other parts of the country where they've already gerrymandered. And they already know that Republicans' votes don't count, so they don't have to worry about it. The big election is the Democrat primary. When I lived in D.C., no one cared about the general election. The whole fight was over the Democrat primary because the Republicans weren't relevant. Now, in D.C., there really aren't many Republicans. But in parts of Virginia, there's a significant group of Republicans. They're rural parts of the state that have a different value system and set of issues compared to Northern Virginia. Why should some farmer in Matthews County have decisions adjudicated by a businessman in Northern Virginia who's never even been to Matthews County and doesn't care about Matthews County? I mean, I told those people in Gloucester last night, I said, I hate to be the one to tell you this. Those people in Northern Virginia hate you. They don't respect you. They think you're hicks. They don't like you. So you really better make sure that they're not in charge of the decisions that are made in your community. I mean, that's controversial to say, but I'm telling you it's true. I lived up there. I know what these people think. They look down their nose at people who live on farms and who do agrarian work, who go to church every Wednesday and every Sunday. That's not their lifestyle. And, you know, of course, it's the open-minded liberals in Northern Virginia who are the ones who were the most judgmental about people around the state. I'm just telling you, if you're sitting at home like, I'm mad about such and such, or I don't like Congressman so-and-so, you're going to be really unhappy if suddenly your congressman is somebody in Northern Virginia who can't even be bothered to get in the car to come down once a year to visit with you, because they're going to screw you over. Just get ready for it. I think Delegate Ren Williams, will agree with me. I mean, you're kind of traveling around talking to people. Ren, what are you hearing as we roll closer and closer to this April 21st referendum? You have hope?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've nailed it, John. I think Northern Virginia and Democrats have really overplayed their hand. I think people are insulted by the language. I think people are insulted by how this is being sold to them. And it's shocking when they show up and actually read the language and it says restoring fairness. I've seen hundreds of times people being like, this is a joke. What is this?
Yeah, it's not restoring fairness in Virginia. And, you know, I can't fight every battle for them in California or Texas or Florida or wherever they're spun up about something else. Really, you know, you got to take care of Virginia and make sure that Virginia voters are treated fairly. And one of the differences, I think, between me and most of the people in our party, in the Republican Party, in the Democrats, I want to win. I do want to win, and I think I'm right. But I'm not going to stomp all over other people's rights in order to win. That is one of the fundamental differences in the way I was raised and the way I perceive public service, and the way the new Democrats, they're happy to stomp all over their opponents. And this is the most potent, obvious example of it. And we got to shut it down and stop that mindset from sweeping the state completely.
Not only are they happy with it or willing to, they feel it is their duty. It is their self-righteous, self-appointed duty to save America, save democracy. Even Congressman Don Beyer said, this looks unfair to Virginia, but it's fair to America. I would be strung up if I turned my back on my constituents because it's good for America, or even if it's good for Virginia, it's not good for my constituents. You have one job there, buddy, and it's not to represent America.
It's to represent the people in your district in Virginia. And I'm tired of the lectures about democracy. This is what democracy looks like when you're deliberately drawing maps that disenfranchise and silence the voice and votes of huge percentages of Virginians. I got news for you. That's not democracy. That's the opposite of that. And they should, you know, for people who run their mouths nonstop about democracy, they should have to own their hypocrisy right now. And hopefully we'll lose over it. Well, we don't need to spend all our time talking about that. Tell me your assessment of maybe the best bills and the worst bills that you were tracking in the General Assembly this year and where things stand.
Yeah, so best bills. We'll give
That's
some credit
list
here where credit is due. Delegate.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a short list. It's one bill. Delegate Delaney and I think the majority of the House. I think it was almost the entire House and possibly the whole Senate. She's worked very hard for 5 years on this deal where it has to deal with prescription drug prices, because, you know, the Democrats, it's the 16th anniversary of Affordable Care Act. How affordable was that? But this is trying to help us with prescription drug prices. And if it works, absolutely wonderful. I can be bipartisan if something is going to help my constituents lower those drug prices. But I wouldn't trade it for how terrible the rest of the bills are. One of the ones I think is the worst is the open carry ban that people aren't necessarily paying attention to, because this particular ban has nothing to do with assault rifles. It has everything to do about transporting, moving, selling, importing. Like somebody asked me the other day, how does somebody move into Virginia after July 1st with a rifle that is considered their, assault pistol, assault firearm, right? That's importing, right? There's no exception. There's no, hey, you can import if you're a new resident. No, you're not allowed to have those when you show up.
So what, are they trying to make people sell off that weaponry before they move to Virginia? Is that the deal?
I mean, I'm not quite sure. I think that's the way that this works, though, is you ask that question right there. And the question is, how would it work if I wanted to do something that sounds legal? And the answer is, it doesn't. It won't. It's an intentional stopping. There is no answer. So the answer is, therefore, it's not legal, right?
Yeah.
If I can't bring it in and there's no exception,
to make it so complicated and turn normal people into felons. Now, they won't go after the street thug who uses a weapon to kill somebody. For some reason, these Democrat prosecutors are not tough enough to actually lock those people up. But they will go after somebody who is registered, who's got a concealed carry, who's gone to the range, who's done all the stuff they're supposed to do. They are happy to create a felony warrant for them. That should alarm people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's clear that they're not trying to address crime. They're trying to disarm over a long-term period of all U.S. citizens when it comes to outlawing and dismantling the Second Amendment. They're doing it with 1,000 cuts is what they're doing. They're making it impossible for you to actually utilize your firearms in any meaningful way. I mean, there's one law, this particular law, the only exception to going hunting with a firearm or a fire rifle in this particular thing in your truck on a public road is if it's raining. I promise you, that's the rule. That's the exception. I swear.
I don't understand. Why would that be an exception? What's the deal?
The exception is that you are allowed to tote your firearm from your home to your hunting plot if it is bad weather, so that you can keep it inside of a vehicle at the time. But if it is good weather, you can't do that. And that's an example of how their bad policy makes no sense when you put it into the Virginia Code section as it currently stands. Even with your concealed carry, because that's a concealed handgun permit. That's not a concealed carry permit.
So is there any hope of shutting this stuff down, or is it going through?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going through. I highly doubt that Miss Moderate is going to miss her opportunity to virtue signal to the Democratic left that it will hold her over the coals if she doesn't do what she says or what they say. But I do think the Supreme Court of the nation will shut this down. I mean, every good gun case coming out right now is in our favor with regard to every single bill that they passed. Even the unconstitutional Dan Helmer gun industry was just ruled unconstitutional recently.
Well, that was one of the things that I heard, Ren, and I wasn't at the Capitol and didn't get to spend as much time watching some of the hearings, committee meetings as I expected this year. I've been busy doing other stuff. But what I have been told is that there were those of you, Republican members of the legislature, who said you are aware that the Supreme Court has already declared the bill you're discussing to be unconstitutional. It's done. This is a ruling. And the reaction from the Democrats is, we don't care. We're still going to pass it. And then you can take it to court and try to get it tossed out a second or third time.
But you know who pays for that? We do. We pay for all of that. Because they also had to appropriate over $5 million to the Attorney General's office to help deal with fighting these lawsuits. So congratulations, Democrat. Thanks for taking our Second Amendment rights and making us pay for them to get them back.
Well, let me shift. The gun issue is huge, and I think it does motivate some people who aren't normally interested in politics. So I'm glad. I'm almost glad that they are being so blatant so early in the 4-year term. So that people who were kind of passive last year will go, oh my God, there are consequences to losing an election. You put the bad guys in charge. But, you know, they ran Abigail Spanberger, the little Ayatollah, Ghazala Hashmi, and, you know, 2 bullets to the brain, Jay Jones. They all ran on
Mr. Speed
affordability.
Racer.
Mr. Speed Racer, yeah. They all ran on affordability. And yet I have not seen anything that indicates that the bills that have gone through the General Assembly this year help the normal person. I mean, maybe they shift some money from someone like me who's trying to make a living every day to give more welfare to people who aren't working. But I haven't seen any concern about making my life more affordable in Virginia. In fact, I think they're raising the costs for me.
Well, they weren't talking about you, John. They didn't say they were going to have an affordability agenda for you.
You just
They said they were
assumed
gonna
that
have
it
an
would be about
affordability agenda.
middle-class Virginians. Instead, it's catering
Yeah.
to their base and stealing from people like me.
It is. And it's also putting people in public housing, paying for meals, making sure that they can vote regardless of their legal status, eliminating ICE from polling locations and courthouses. I mean, I have never seen the Democrats fight so hard for a particular portion of the people in this state that are illegal, that don't deserve any of this welfare or money. They are turning their backs on their own citizens to make sure that illegal aliens are protected. It is just the strangest situation right now. And if I was a Democrat, I'd be furious.
Well, what's your read of the political situation? Do you think that the Republican base is paying attention and animated now? Do you think there's a chance that the April 21st referendum goes down with a no vote and Democrats kind of get a slap in the face like this is not what we wanted when you got elected last year? Or are we really in for a rough 4 years ahead?
I just think that the way that the Democrats had to rush this, they couldn't plan quite as well as they normally do. So like the language is wrong, and now they're having to change their messaging, and now they're starting to get worried. So now they're already blaming Spanberger. They're like, she's not doing enough. And it's like, if I saw one this morning said, if this fails, the majority of the weight is going to be on her shoulders. And I'm like, wow, you guys are real railroading her through this. And it's obvious she doesn't want it. She can't muster enough enthusiasm, unlike Barack Obama, to cut a good commercial. It's clear. And now they're running up the Trump train. This is the first persuasive election I've ever been a part of, because we are targeting independents and saying, look, just look at it. Look, they're not even showing you the maps. We'll show you the maps. What's the last Vote Yes campaign that's actually had maps on their social media or anything like that?
Right.
None.
Right.
That's because they know it looks unfair.
Yeah, is that correct that the Board of Elections told the local precincts you're not allowed to display the maps? I would think that would be fundamental to making a decision. All right, you claim these are fair maps. Let's see them. Are they fair? Do they look like they're fair? Most people, they got a GPS in their phone. They know what a map looks like. If it starts in Northern Virginia with a huge blob up here with 500,000 voters, and then it has this little thing that goes down to rural Virginia, it's pretty obvious the people in rural Virginia don't count, that the decision's going to be made up in Northern Virginia. Don't be surprised that they don't like that, but they won't show the maps, as I understand about it.
Yeah, I mean, they have actually said in the trading webinar material for local registrars that you are not supposed to answer any questions or display any maps at all. And it was the Democrats, and I called them out about this. It was the Democrats who put $5 million extra into the general fund, so that when that's your taxpayers' dollars to cover this special election. Educational resources. Well, who wrote the educational resources and was influencing the educational resources? Spanberger and A.G. Jones. That's how that works. And they did it. They sure did it. They're going to keep leading on it.
Well, it seems clear that you've got people who are drunk with power, who are remarkably, even more arrogant than I expected with the stuff they're pushing through. And, it's all or nothing now with this referendum on April 21st. If it's a David and Goliath situation, if we manage to defeat this takeover plan that is unfair to everybody. I mean, look, even if you're a Democrat in one of these rural communities, you, for whatever reason, you can't get on board with the Republicans. You didn't like Winsome, you didn't like me, you didn't like Jason. Okay, whatever. That's fine. If you're a Democrat in one of these rural communities, they're still not going to ever care what you think. You can send all the emails you want. You can call the office. You can tell them you're a Democrat. They don't care because their votes are all coming from Northern Virginia. And it's already a tough enough situation, as you know, if you're in a rural part of the state, to get people to pay attention to you. You want to make yourself irrelevant completely, politically? This is the way to do it. So I would vote no and hold on to your autonomy if that's at all possible.
Yeah, and let me touch on one thing, because this is the thing I hear all the time. Trump started in Texas. Trump started it in Texas. No, you got to look back a little bit. And I'm not even going to take the whole Democrats gerrymandered the whole country, right? I'm not going to take that route. Go back a little bit farther and realize that the Democrats are doing this because they are losing major seats in major states. California, Texas, or California, New York, Washington, some of their biggest states are losing 3 to 4 seats because people are leaving. They're voting with their feet. They are leaving. They're going to Florida. They're going to Texas. They're going to Tennessee. And you are seeing it. That is why they try to gerrymander Virginia. It has nothing to do with Trump. It is an opportunity. They are seizing on this opportunity because they know they're going to be ridden out of the House of Representatives if they don't do something miraculous.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping people are paying attention. I appreciate the things that you're posting on social media. I do follow you and see you regularly, and you're one of the voices that is standing up for the people of your district and the people of the Commonwealth. Delegate Ren Williams, thanks for joining us today, and I hope I'll see you in person real soon.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
you, John.
All right, very good. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, it's the final segment of the show with producer Dan. Best and worst of the internet. I wonder what Dan has picked out for today. We'll find out when we return here on the Reid Revolution.
They defied a court order and ignored the rule of law. Now Richmond politicians are drawing new congressional districts to rig the game for themselves. They want to eliminate competitive elections in Virginia so they can protect sanctuary city policies that put dangerous criminal aliens back on our streets. Here's what we should do with these corrupt maps. Stick them right in the trash. Vote no on partisan gerrymandering.
You only got one more month to hear us talk about this, but I mean, it really is very, very important that you get out and vote no and vote now. And I had a bunch of people, you know, last night, producer Dan, I was talking to, I called you in the car on the way back from Gloucester, and I had a bunch of people say, what exactly do you want me to do other than vote? Well, of course, you know, if you're Elon Musk, it would be great to get $1 million so that we could actually put some ads on television up in Northern Virginia. And I know in a very personal way how damaging it is when the Democrats have all this money. Like Ghazala Hashmi spent all that money up in Northern Virginia to make me look bad. I mean, meanwhile, she didn't campaign, didn't do anything. They can trash you if they've got money, and if they motivate the voters up in Northern Virginia, there's just so many voters, they can swamp the rest of the state. It really is like out of a novel. I guess this isn't new, you know, French Revolution, and I hate to say it, this is what causes civil wars. When elitist, arrogant people stomp on everybody else and know they're doing it and do it with no apology. I mean, they're very eager to do it. At some point, something breaks. Now, I don't want that to happen. I'm not suggesting I want that to happen, but I'm warning everybody. I think I should warn you. There's only so much. You're going to take people's guns, right? Make them into the felons while you don't prosecute the actual criminals who are killing people. You're going to do what Ghazala Hashmi and, quite frankly, the governor, Spanberger, did yesterday, act like you don't give a damn about young women being murdered, being raped, being abused. And then you're going to be so bold as to take the power of their vote away without apology? I mean, I don't know. I feel very strongly about my positions, but I am aware of what the breaking point is with other people. You've got to be respectful of other people and their positions. And kind of the only way to do that is to make sure that they feel like they have a way to responsibly and peacefully register their approval or disapproval at the ballot box. And if you take that away, really, what is it you expect people to do? You think they're just going to go away? I think they're playing with fire. It's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. I don't want it to go that direction, but I would warn everybody, I just think this is a big mistake.
Well, what do you, I mean, let me ask you, what do you think people will do? Do you think that people will become uncivil, or do you think that they'll just leave Virginia?
You mean, do I think that Republicans will start behaving like Democrats? Because, for 10 years, Democrats have been throwing eggs at people, attacking people. I mean, I'm not making it up. Just watch what happened in Richmond in 2020. Really entitled, obnoxious, quite frankly, I'll say it, white leftists. They want to make it all about race. I'm going to call out my own people. You radical white leftists who think that you get to do whatever you want. And I guess you've never actually gone to jail. So for some reason, you think you can do whatever you want because you're morally entitled to do whatever you want, and there's going to be no consequence for you. I would think that black citizens would take exception to the white leftists thinking they can get away with behaving how they have lately. Because let's be honest, if a black person did this, they'd probably go to jail. But, the people who constantly claim that they're so concerned about racial equity and, let's make sure that we don't lock up black people even when they commit a crime, then feel quite entitled to go out and commit a crime on their own and don't expect to ever be touched. Like all the concern about the two people who attacked the police officers, who were both white, the white woman and the white guy, right? That wouldn't be acceptable for a black person to attack a police officer, but for some reason those white leftists felt very entitled. Oh, we're right, therefore we get to attack the cops. And then we're all supposed to mourn and cry that they're dead? Hey, I got news for you. Other people have had to face the reality of you don't attack the cops. You're welcome to vote. You're welcome to write an op-ed. You're welcome to go to the Capitol. You're welcome to stand across the street. Even if you're a dummy and you're wrong, you're welcome to protest. You're just not, it's not okay, never going to be acceptable to attack a cop. I'm sorry. What else do I need to express to you? White, black, Republican, Democrat, if you attack a cop, there's going to be a problem, and you might wind up dead. I can't defend you from your own stupidity. So, yeah, at some point, I'm telling you, Dan, I think there are people who have been holding back like, wow.
Oh, I know there are.
Let's just get to normalcy. Come on, everything. The pendulum's going to swing back. We're getting back to normalcy. Don't overreact. I mean, I admire the self-restraint that some of my friends who have been in the military have shown, because they are mad as hell. And this gun thing, this gun grab, has really agitated them. And the idea that their vote isn't going to count anymore because they don't live in Northern Virginia, I mean, what are you expecting them to do at this point? Accept third-class status while illegal immigrants are given vouchers and food and housing supplements? Give me a break. I mean, at some point the society is going to break. That's why I'm warning. I don't want it to happen. I'm telling you, responsible people need to get in charge again and stop the bad stuff from occurring.
Well, this is I like to stick to the facts. As I say, I aspire to be a man of fact.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that the American Revolution started over less.
I know.
The fact of the matter is, I'll repeat that, the American Revolution started over less. Started over.
Well, Dan,
over
there's a revolution.
Fewer encroachments.
There's a revolution happening now.
Yeah.
It's just the leftists trying to kill everybody.
Yeah. It's absolutely true.
They're trying, I should amend that. They're trying to take over the government and take your money and make you a second-class citizen. And
we're frogs in a boiler.
And they have no problem with you being hurt physically. Or, you know what? Or if they did have a problem with it, then Ghazala Hashmi would have answered that question about Stephanie Minter. She would have expressed some concern. But here's the ugly reality.
Abigail Spanberger too.
Stephanie Minter's a white lady. I don't know if she's a Republican or Democrat or I don't know. She's a white lady. They don't give a damn about you. You know, they don't give a damn about you. When are you going to wake up to that? These leftists are using you. And Ghazala Hashmi is using you and your vote to take over the state. That's what's happening right in front of your face. And in 20 or 30 years, you're not going to recognize Virginia anymore.
Yeah, heck, I already don't recognize it from 20 or 30 years ago. But
your kids are not going to acknowledge that Easter is coming in 2 weeks, but they're going to know everything about Ramadan. And they're going to be told, oh, you can't eat in public because you might offend a Muslim. Look, I'm respectful of everybody, if I possibly can be. I'm very respectful of other people. But what I'm not going to do is sit silently while my society and my culture and my state and my country are overtaken by other people, and suddenly I have to change my behavior to accommodate you. Now, that I'm not willing to do. I'll be polite to you, and you can do what you want in your place of worship. But no, we're not going to recalibrate the entire society to cater to you. And I'm telling you, that's what's happening. It's happening in Europe now, and it's going to happen here. And I'm sorry that everybody else is so scared and pathetic and weak that they won't talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. And I know it's going to make people mad, and I'm sorry about that, but it's got to be said. And this is a part of the takeover here.
Yeah. Well, these folks worship government. They believe themselves to be special, enlightened. They certainly think that they are better than the rest of us, that they know better for us than the rest of us, and that they should control everything about society, including our lives. And everything that they do is designed to lead to that end. And they don't really make much of a secret about it. I mean, certainly look to your point. Look at Ghazala's attitude toward Nick Minaj. Look at Abigail Spanberger's attitude toward Nick Minaj yesterday.
You want to play that again for the people who listed at the beginning?
Yeah, I'll play. Let's play the clip.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me find it here.
I just can't imagine.
Today, Governor Spanberger visited Culpeper to talk.
This is as loud as I can get it, by the way, folks.
About Virginians, police say, were victimized by illegal immigrants.
Did he push him
out
of
what
he did?
To Stephanie Minter's family and children who have been harmed by illegal immigrants, Governor?
My question would be why, when there was a tentative deportation order, ICE did not deport them.
The governor is referring to Abdul Jallo, who is now in jail awaiting trial.
I mean, for God's sake, what is she doing? Do you know the thing to do, not that she wants coaching from me, but the thing to do is to turn and face the reporter.
Yeah.
And in your head, you're thinking, I'm going to give him 30 seconds. I'm going to give him the soundbite that he needs so that people hear my version or my statement, whatever it is I want to say, not to blow him off and act like, oh, you peasant, I don't have to talk to you. That was weird. How could somebody get elected as governor of Virginia and have such terrible political instincts? You're talking at a dead lady, a murdered woman who was the mother of 3. You think that that's okay to behave that way? What the hell is wrong with you? I'm stunned by that behavior. And it's not just her. Here's Hashmi. Here's the little Ayatollah, who I'm told, listen, I'm telling you, people who are in her own party said, oh, please beat her. Don't let her become lieutenant governor. She's the most arrogant jerk at the Capitol. And this is, look, see that arrogant rolling of her eyes?
Yeah, the rolling of the eyes, yeah.
With the security guy pushing the reporter out of the way, putting his hand on him? What the hell? Who do you think you are? And I like to be supportive of police, but who do you think you are pushing the reporter? He's just asking a question. What's the deal? You have elected a lot of people to office now who are arrogant. I'm going to use a bad word. They're arrogant, obnoxious people who think they're better than you. I mean, I've got strong opinions. You know that. And I will go toe-to-toe with anybody to argue my position, but that's the difference. I'll go toe to toe with you. I will have a conversation. I will do. You know how many people have said, John, you're really making a mistake doing this podcast because, they're recording every word you say. Do it. Record it. I'm happy for you to know how I feel. I'm not trying to hide my position. I'm happy to discuss it. I'm happy to share what I think. I'm happy to take questions from people about what I think and respond to it. And if you've got a challenge, if you think oh, wow, really got him on this, bring it up. You're not going to fool me. I've dealt with this stuff for 30 years. You're not going to fool me. But, we may just reach a place where we disagree on something. But I'm not going to be one of these politicians who is scared to interact with the public or acts like an arrogant jerk like these two ladies just did. That was really awful. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a political opponent. I'm saying that as a Virginian. That I don't expect that from anybody. And if Glenn
really
Youngkin had behaved that way, I would have called out Glenn Youngkin too. That sucks.
This gerrymandering initiative of theirs, I think Vote Yes must not be getting the job done. They're really trying to shift to this no kings language now. I think I saw it yesterday.
Well, that's just because we got the protests this weekend.
Right. I live in Chesterfield County outside of Richmond, Virginia, and right. I saw a demonstration last night over on an interpass over the interstate. I saw something this morning as well. No kings, no kings. But how do you watch the videos that we just saw and come to the conclusion that these leaders are the ones who aren't the ones acting like monarchs? I mean, they are the ones who think of themselves as kings, as royalty, as queens, as it were. This is the behavior of people who believe that they are not accountable to you or to me, or that they don't work for you or for me, that we are peons, that we are subjects unto them, and not people to whom they answer to. It's ridiculous behavior, and it's all the more ridiculous when they're trying to say that, like, oh, we got to vote yes on this initiative because we're against kings, we're against queens, or
but get out of my face, you peon.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a break. Yeah. Well, listen. Did you have any video you wanted to?
So
play here?
I teased earlier in the show. If you were watching the chat, I was kind of preoccupied last night. I don't know if I can get into this. Is it okay if I talk about this with what's going on with the logistics of the show, for just where we are?
Oh, you mean just the technical stuff?
Yeah, just what we're gonna.
I think
we're
people
gonna
would be bored by that. But yeah, we've had some technical problems.
But there's good news though. I think there's good news. Yes, yeah. There's some good news.
Something we haven't seen how the new system's going to work. I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
It's like, the new company has offered to fix our problems, but I would wait and see if they fix the problems.
That's true.
First of
That's
all,
true. But yeah, so I was very busy over the last 12 hours doing a lot of beta testing, and I all of a sudden I woke up this morning and said, "Wait, what did I do for the show today?" I didn't really have anything, and I was thinking, well, it's opening day for baseball season, hence my subtitle there. Let's go Bucks, let's go Pirates. Hey, we're 0-0 as of right now. We don't have a losing record. How often can you say that about the Pittsburgh baseball team? But we'll see. I think they might actually have a good season this year. They've actually spent some money for once in the off season. But I was looking, and I wasn't successful.
When is the Richmond game?
That gets started sort of mid-April, I think. Yeah, Double-A baseball is a little later.
Listen,
it starts later and ends earlier.
Dan.
Yeah.
I'm for baseball in Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Flying Squirrels. I like the people. I like the executive team of the Flying Squirrels. I've met some of the players over the years with the Flying Squirrels. I'm for baseball in Richmond. That stadium stinks. The stadium is embarrassing. Hold on, let's see. Opening day.
I can't even see it really from the interstate.
Of course you can't. That's one of the problems.
Yeah.
It's like a warehouse. And I drove by the other day. I hadn't mentioned this because I'm really trying not to be just a total. I mean, there's some people who criticize everything.
Critic, yeah.
I really don't want to be like that. It's really not who I am. But I can't help but I drove by on Arthur Ashe Boulevard the other day. and there's the diamond, this huge. It stands out. I mean, I don't know why everybody's so down on the diamond. I actually like the look of it. The seats are fine. I mean, I guess it doesn't have enough showers in the locker room, so suddenly we're going to tear this thing down and build a new stadium. All right, it's not my problem. I don't have to negotiate with Major League Baseball or with the San Francisco Giants. So, it's not my place to comment about it, other than that looks like a baseball stadium. That looks like a landmark, the diamond, when you see it all lit up at night. And then next to it is this hole with a brown building that looks like a warehouse. And when I drove by the other day, now granted, I was just driving by, and maybe they were putting the finishing touches. It's like when you move into your house doesn't look good when you first move in because there are boxes everywhere and stuff isn't hung up. So maybe I'll go and I'll change my attitude.
And the brown building that looks like a warehouse is something other than the Arthur Ashe Center.
Oh yeah, I mean,
okay.
The Arthur Ashe Center.
Now we have two brown buildings, I guess.
Yeah, the Arthur Ashe Center, which is where they did, track meets and stuff. That I don't even think anybody goes in there anymore because. It has some sort of fundamental problem with the structure. It has some sort of fundamental structure problem with the structure at the Arthur Ashe Center. But the diamond looks like a baseball diamond, so people know. Oh, you go to the baseball game? There it is. I don't know what they're thinking with this CarMax Park, and I'm glad CarMax put the money up for it. So I'm not trying to, it's not a slam on CarMax. All right, so April 7th, I guess, is opening of the new season.
It's usually into April when AA gets started. Yeah.
And that is sold out. I didn't get a ticket to that. I'll go see it, and maybe I'll take it back. Maybe I'll get there, and I'll be impressed. But it doesn't look good from the street. It's very the whole thing is unimpressive, and I'm not the only one saying that. Fortunately.
Yeah, I haven't even seen it, except to the extent that it's visible at all from the interstate from 64 or 95.
It's not visible.
No,
it's so like modern. I can't even say Chicago because remember, Chicago has that weird the bean thing that's a mirrored. I don't know what it is. It's a bean. It looks like a bean, but it's all mirrors. It's kind of interesting. It sits out on its own. People all hours of the day and night, people go up and take pictures with it. That's modern art. It's not my thing, but I recognize it's kind of interesting, and people like it. So, okay, cool. When they built the new Yankee Stadium, I went to the old Yankee Stadium and then walked across the street and saw them building the new Yankee Stadium. I've stood on the pitcher's mound at the new Yankee Stadium. It's still an impressive building. They kept the feeling of the old ballpark with the new ballpark. I think you probably should do that. I've been to all those stadiums in Chicago. They try to make them spectacular. There's a move to make everything a warehouse-looking building. I don't get it. And I hate to say this about Richmond because you see the Allianz Theater. Again, like Allianz, I'm not putting them down. I appreciate that they have paid the money to be the presenting sponsor or whatever of the theater. I'm not putting them down. But that's another venue. It's so cookie cutter, blah. Other than the skyline of the city in the background, you don't even know where you are. Whereas in Chicago, they built that Millennium Park with the beautiful it was IMP or Frank Gehry design that you immediately see it. And you go, oh wow, that's Chicago. The symphony plays there, and that's the Chicago outdoor venue. Richmond's got some brown cookie cutter cardboard looking theater. Now we got a brown cookie cutter ballpark that's a hole in the ground that no one can see from the street. I don't mean to be a total jerk. People worked hard to get this done. It's better than losing the baseball team. I concede that. And I really don't want to be just a totally negative jerk about it. But come on, could anybody come up with something that has some grandeur, and you go, wow, amazing, Richmond. We're so excited to be in Richmond. Richmond's the capital city. We love this place. This is amazing. You can't see this anywhere else but Richmond. Nobody thinks that way anymore. I don't know whether it's because they don't want to spend the money on it or because so many people, no offense, you came here at age 10 from Pittsburgh, and your allegiances are God, I mean, I don't even want to get you started on the Pittsburgh stuff. I mean, you won't shut up about Pittsburgh.
Well, I came from Fredericksburg, but yeah, my ancestral home was Pittsburgh. My dad is from Pittsburgh, but yeah.
And am I lying? You always talk about Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's in the blood. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons you always talk about Pittsburgh, now that I've been to Pittsburgh, I can say it's a beautiful city. It's kind of a unique city. Richmond's a beautiful city and a unique city, but we just don't. The people who are running it treat it like it's the adopted stepson or something. I don't see any indication that the people who are building things here, with maybe the exception of the Dominion Energy building, which has that weird curve on it. And I mean, I'm debating architecture with you, but it's just nobody here is really looking to upgrade.
Well, at least the interior of the Altria, I mean, which used to be called the mosque, of course, the interior of that was very distinctive.
And they did a nice job of the restoration. Alonzo and I were there for the show the other night, and every time I go, I'm like, wow, the paint is fresh. It looks very well kept. It is what it is. It's an old Shriners auditorium, but I like looking at the murals of the people in the Middle East traveling on camels and elephants. I mean, I think it's a very interesting, unique building.
Do we have any update
you're
about
in
the
Richmond
Bird?
If you're there.
Do we have any update about the Bird Theater restoration? I think that's one of the last theaters of its kind in North America, if not the world. But I think they're trying to. What the heck? William Shatner, who just turned 95 the other day, that was where he designated the premiere of his autobiographical documentary to be is at the Bird Theater here in Richmond.
Yeah, I mean the Bird is great, and I'm so glad we've got it. But and it's wonderful for Richmond. And if you go there, if you're coming through Virginia, and you want to go see a movie in an old movie theater and have that old experience at the turn of the century, when did that open? In 27?
I think 1928, 27 or 28.
1920, yeah. Bird Theater wraps up seat makeover September 9th, 2025. So maybe, I mean, the place needs someone to come in and spend $30 million and upgrade everything without losing the mystique. Sometimes I've been to the Bird. My 40th birthday was at the Bird Theater. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the Bird Theater. I'm not putting it down. But
my grandmother went to go see movies at the Bird. She was from Ohio, but we had family here in Richmond.
Everybody who lived in Richmond, that's where they used to go.
Well, she lived in Ohio, but when she came to visit here, she would go to see movies at the Bird Theater when she was a kid.
Yeah.
So
1928.
Yeah.
But I guess you're making my point.
Yeah.
People used to compete to have the most beautiful movie theater, or wow, this ballpark is amazing. It's got arches and it looks like the Colosseum in Rome, or it has remnant. I mean, people used to compete about that. Now everything is kind of cut rate glass buildings that could be replicated anywhere. You go to downtown Charlotte, North Carolina, who they're kicking our butts economically. They've stolen all the banks. I mean, hey, they were on it. They changed the laws. The banks left Richmond and went to Charlotte. Charlotte is just a generic city on the ground, and when you look at the skyline, I like Charlotte. I've got some good friends in Charlotte, but I'm not impressed by Charlotte, other than they're doing better economically than we are. But I don't think they compete to make things grand either. It's this. I mean, this is a bigger thing about students and architecture and everything. I mean, at least it's not brutalist architecture that is soul-sucking, where you walk in and you're depressed and want to blow your brains out after you go to church in you go to church in a concrete palace that is like a prison, and when you leave, you're physically and emotionally depressed because of the architecture. I think architecture should inspire people, and maybe that's my point. To sum it up, we didn't expect to talk about this. I'm sorry. Architecture should inspire people, and the things that are going up in and around Richmond, Virginia, my hometown, are very uninspiring. Glad they're there, better than losing the ballpark, the baseball team, better than not having an outdoor arena, but they're not. There's nothing special about them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
guess now
I
we
can't
won't
even,
be
I
invited
can't
to
even
do the show from the ballpark.
I can't even see the ballpark well enough to comment one way or the other. I guess I'm just gonna have to go to check out a game at some point and see what I think.
I'll go to the game. I want to be supportive of them.
Yeah.
I'm all for them, even though it sounds like I'm being critical.
Have fun, go nuts. Yeah.
All right, so that's it. You don't have any.
Yeah. The only thing I had, I was going to try to introduce the audience to a favorite character of mine named Pittsburgh Dad, who's become at least very regionally popular. Yeah, very regionally popular, but also has made national headlines on the Pat McAfee show on ESPN. But I was looking for an opening day baseball themed vignette of his, but I don't think he's posted anything yet. So I was going to show an oldie but a goodie. Just, but he's a hoot. He is as the character name says. He is a prototypical Pittsburgh dad, but I did have an oldie but goodie that I could show if you wanted me to really quickly. Just
sure.
Yeah. Now this
with that introduction, you better.
That's right. Well, this was for, and I think most of our audience would probably be familiar with this story. You may not be as familiar because you don't follow sports as much, but the famed former New England Patriots coach, now at least for now, the North Carolina Tar Heels football coach, Bill Belichick, got into I think they call it a May-December romance a year or two ago that I think is still going on with somebody who's about 50 years his junior. And so this was Pittsburgh Dad's commentary about this when this started about a year ago.
Yeah. And what the hell is Bill Belichick doing these days? One moment he's the Darth Vader of the NFL. The next, he's running around with Timu, Jennifer Loves Hewitt. Yeah, it's bad enough we had to see him in all them Super Bowls. Now we gotta sit there and look at him make googly eyes at the Pink Power Ranger. You're telling me that girl looked at the entire Patriots sign line, including a cleft chin, gorgeous Tom Brady. I hate even the fact I said that. And she's like, nah, give me that angry gray sweatshirt wearing a headset. Bill Belichick is like if the dirty laundry that's hanging on the Peloton bike got struck by lightning and came to life. Can you just imagine them two on the phone at night?
No, you hang up first. No, you hang up first.
And Bill Belichick's girlfriend got him dressing up like mermaids. I says, can somebody get Ursula out here to steal their souls? Forget Viagra. Bill's gonna need defibrillator paddles. His heart can't handle that. He's gonna take one look at that girl and think he's watching the Philly special all over again. I can't even imagine Bill with a lady. I know he's got kids, but I always imagine Steve Belichick come from mixing together a brown starter jacket, some of Bill's toenails, and a can of pork and beans. Steve. Oh, did you see that interview where she cut Bill off from saying where they met? Bill, we all know where you got her. The same place you got them Spygate cameras. Rent-A-Center. Yeah, can you give me some of them real tiny cameras? And the flea market Katy Perry. When do I gotta have him back by? Oh, and of course, Jordan and Bill got cute little pet names for each other. He calls her Jordy Bear. She calls him PNC Bank.
That is Pittsburgh Dad. So my friend Kurt Wooten from Pittsburgh. So yeah.
You know this guy?
I do a little bit.
Do you?
Yeah, we got connected on social media years ago, but yeah. So
is he in Pittsburgh?
He is at one of the townships outside of it. Yeah. But yeah, he's a fun guy. So and has become very, very. I mean, he is Pittsburgh. Speaking of royalty, he is Pittsburgh royalty. Everybody in Pittsburgh knows Pittsburgh Dad. So
well, see, I'm going to take it in a different direction. That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not my thing, but okay, whatever. It is funny. It's a good little stand-up routine.
Yeah.
But Richmond used to have its own culture too.
Right.
There used to be people in Richmond who were kind of Richmond or Virginia. And that's kind of been beaten out of us by people who've moved here who really are kind of like here because it's cheaper, but they're not really interested in the culture. And I try to be careful about that when I'm traveling because, why am I traveling? Is it just to go eat in a restaurant or have a bunch of drinks and get drunk at night? Or is it to experience what's unique about the place that I'm visiting? And having lived in a bunch of different places, I'm aware that, most of the places I've gone are kind of like big cities where LA has an attitude that's LA. LA is better than New York, they think. And then New York thinks they're better than LA. And, DC has an attitude. And for some reason, and I'm not being disrespectful to Pittsburgh. Alonzo did a talk show about sports in Pittsburgh back when he was in college and went to school outside of Pittsburgh. So I've had to kind of grow between you and Alonzo. I've had to grow to kind of like Pittsburgh on some level.
Yeah.
We
Even
had a
though
great time when
he's
we
a
went.
Ravens fan, as Pittsburgh dad would say.
Right.
Oh no, he roots for the Ravens.
But
yeah,
we used to have kind of that same thing in Richmond, and I don't know, it's just kind of disappeared, and I regret that. And I don't know what to do about it.
Well,
I mean, that was clever. That was clever.
It's yeah, and there are a million of those. I'll definitely make Pittsburgh dad part of the best of the internet
rotation.
rotation.
One every day. we don't need to see one every day.
It was a hit with our listeners and watchers in the chat. So the revolutionaries liked it, but good. Okay. So that's what I'm calling our broadcast. I like that. I think the revolutionaries. I think that's a good. I think that's a good name for
All right,
for our.
now I like what you just said, Dan.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, the revolutionaries. I think that's what we've been wanting. We can't call them listeners anymore. We can't really call them. If they're listening, they're not viewers. If they're viewing, they're not listeners.
Did I tell you that I had a lady at dinner the other night? She came up to my table, and she said, I just think you are one of the problems here. And I said, well, ma'am, I'm having dinner, but thanks for your thought. And she's like, and to call your show a revolution, are you trying to cause violence? And I said, well, you know what? Unlike you, it seems I didn't go out in 2020 and set anything on fire. So, no, I'm not trying to cause a revolution.
Right.
I think it's a clever name. So there you go.
Well, the Reagan Revolution, that was not a violent revolution.
Sure.
So, yeah. I've always thought it was more of an ode to that based on your
It is. That's right. I mean, I'm not the one. I don't wear a button with a guillotine on it and act like that's some sort of cute little thing like, oh, I'm going to threaten to chop your head off, but ha, ha, ha. That's not my attitude. That's the way these leftists are behaving. I'm going to take your vote away from you, make you a felon, and then chop your head off. Have a great day. No, that's not my attitude. So, all right, we got to run.
Yes, you do. Yeah. So
I appreciate it. I'm always happy to see you. I hope if you're watching, we thank you for watching, and you'll follow us on both of our Facebook pages, The Reid Revolution with John Reid, and the second backup page so we don't get deplatformed, The Reid Revolution. You'll see two different pictures. Please follow both. We're on X and Rumble and on YouTube. If you want to listen to the audio version, you can download this as a podcast and listen in the car on Apple and Spotify. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow right before I go vote in Henrico County on the Reid Revolution.